Declare that you are the Lord of our life. So we surrender that to you. We surrender every part today. God, thank you that your presence was known in this place today, still here, still moving and changing and touching lives today. We just love you and we give you all honor. We give you all praise. In Jesus' name, come on, everybody said amen. Come on, give the Lord a hand today. Welcome to Destiny Church. We're so glad that you're here. So glad that you chose to spend a moment with us this weekend. And we're just so excited about what the Lord has for you today. If you're a first-time guest, we want to say welcome. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We just want to connect with you. Please, at the end of service, go to the welcome table in the lobby. We just want to have the chance to meet you. There's actually a card in the seat pocket in front of you. We'd love for you to fill it out, or you can do it online as well at destinychurch.me. Hey, give somebody a high five as you're being seated, and then check out this video. Well, have you ever had one of those days where you had everything planned out perfectly and it didn't quite go to plan? In fact, it just totally thrown a curveball. Have you ever had that? Just a curveball and some plans that you had. And so we had this special day planned out, and it's still going to be a special day. But Pastor Chad, as you can probably notice, I think a lot of us, right when we get in here, we look right over there. Oh, there's Pastor Chad. He is not here today. Without going into detail, he had a little bit of a medical scare last night, and so he is at home resting. And he had to go to the hospital last night for just a little bit. So would you just keep him in your prayers? Would you just pray for him? If you have his number, send him a text. If you don't have his number, we're going to put it. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to put it on the screen. He would fire me, man. Oh, he's so funny. So anyway, but I know he's feeling better today. But we were just like, you need to stay home. And you need to get some rest. And so we're just believing that the Lord's going to continue to heal him. Pastor Donnie's going to speak today, but I just want to go over a couple things real quick. This was part of our day that Pastor Chad was going to do. And but Pastor Donnie's going to come speak to you for just a second. But we've been asked a lot about the Imagine campaign. And we've been asked, when are you going to talk about the commitments and all of that? And Pastor, we had this whole plan. Pastor Chad was going to lay it out, but he texted me this morning and he said, you need to tell them. You need to tell them what's going on. So how many of you want to know what's happening with Imagine? If you weren't here over the past few weeks, we went through an 8-week series that we talked about just the matters of our heart and a surrendered heart and just all of these different aspects. You can actually check it out online at YouTube. You can just search Destiny Church Mo, and you can watch those messages. The podcasts are up as well. But if you don't know this, we are getting ready to go into a campaign. We just had our what we call our public phase of our building campaign. And so now we are in what we call our fulfillment phase. And so for the next 3 years, we are committing to raise $2 million to be able to just expand and to have a building that will meet the needs of not only this church but this community as well. And so if you don't have information on that, we have some booklets that are out in the lobby. What we call it's a journey guide. It's got a bunch of frequently asked questions, and it tells everything about the campaign that we're in. And so a few weeks ago, we had our what we call our Commitment Sunday. And it's where we asked you to fill out a commitment card after just kind of going through an 8-week series. And I just want to tell you, before I give you all the numbers, if you did not fill out a commitment card, there is still time. You can still get on board, and you can still make a commitment throughout this. These are located at each one of these giving boxes in the worship center, and then also there's some at the welcome table. But we encourage you, if you did not get a chance to fill out a commitment card, please do that. Please, if the Lord would lead you to do that, we'd love for you to do that. So, without further ado, unless you just want me to skip this part. That's what I thought. So Destiny Church, we felt that the Lord spoke to us and said, we need to go to $2 million. That is what we should ask the church. This is what we're going to commit to and to pledge. And so after 2 weeks ago, we took all the cards, added them up. And I just want you all to know that our commitment for the Imagine campaign, the total of it came in at $2,028,392. I kind of thought it would be a little more exciting than that. Let me read it again to make sure that you heard me. $2,028,392 is what you all committed to over the next 3 days. What is it? Oh, well, it's $2,028. I bet Anna could make that change really quick. Look at that. She's really good at what she does. That is what has been committed. Here's what's really cool. We haven't even asked you guys to start giving yet, and that's coming. We're going to have like a one day, hey, we're going to start our commitment. Some of you are able to give what you committed immediately, and some people, like myself, it's going to take me 3 years for what the Lord asked me to do, what I pledged and what I committed to do. Here's what's really cool. So far in 2025, $147,170 has already come in for this campaign. That's just in 2025. And so I just think that, guys, this is a win. I want you to understand the magnitude of this. This is a win. Are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. But this is something for us to celebrate and something for us to be proud of, that we were able to step up and we were able to say, you know what? The Lord spoke to me. I'm going to make some adjustments in my life. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to give this up so I can put this toward whatever the case is in your situation. This is something that we are going to keep top of mind and we want to celebrate often, okay? And so we're just so excited about that. We're going to keep this in front of you. We're going to give you updates probably every 6 to 8 weeks as money comes in, and so that we can celebrate this and we can watch, the thermometer go up. And because we want you guys to be able to celebrate this. So I want to ask you one more time, if you did not fill out a commitment card and you want to be a part of this team, because I like to be a part of a winning team. I don't know about you. I don't like losing. I'm kind of a sore loser. But if you want to be a part of this, we would love for you to join us and link arms, and we're just going to see what the Lord does over the next 3 years, and I'm just so excited about that. So can we give the Lord a hand one more time? That's a win, folks. That's a win. We're excited about that. So, hey, today Pastor Donnie is coming, and he has a message on his heart, and I'm just so thankful for all of our pastors that we can be ready in season and out of season, because I know that this decision was made late yesterday, and that we have a pastor that could come up here and not miss a beat and preach a message that's on his heart. So, hey, would you welcome Pastor Donnie to the stage today?
Well, it has been a whirlwind 12 hours. Chad sent me the note last night and said, "Dad, would you happen to have a message that you could preach?" And he said, "I'm going to the emergency room." And so he went, and this morning I awoke and got up a little bit early. I was sitting in my chair in the living room, and my phone began to ring, and I looked down, and it was my wife. I thought, what is she calling me from the bedroom for? She said, "Can you come in here? I can't get up." And I went in there, and she said, "The room is going around in circles." And I tried to help her stand, and she couldn't stand. Left her back in bed, and she called me back in 10 minutes, 15 minutes later and said, "Come and help me into the living room." So I had to just almost carry her into the living room. And she is nauseated, throwing up, and sweating. And I don't know if she has vertigo or what. She's never experienced this before. But this was all while I was trying to prepare for the sermon this morning. So I've cut it down from 4 hours to about 2 hours. So I think you'll be glad for that. Let me tell you something. When I first heard the news of how much money had been pledged, I started weeping. I started weeping because, folks, we need that building in the worst way. And to hear your giving and your faithfulness to the cause of, you deserve, I'll tell you nothing else, you deserve a hand clap to yourself. Just say, you did a great job. You should be proud of yourselves. I have no idea who pledged what. I know that God spoke to me, and I doubled my pledge in the last instant, and I'm still wondering, why would I do that, God? But I just know that God's going to take care of it. Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. We were scheduled to leave right after service this morning for vacation. And needless to say, that has been put on hold because I don't want a wife that can't even stand up to try to take her on vacation. I don't think that would be wise. Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. I don't even know if they'll have the information on the board. They do have. Okay. So it was last minute. I mean, it really was, but God had laid this message on my heart. It's been in my spirit for months. And when Chad said, "Do you have anything?" I said, "Yeah, I do." Doesn't go with anything. It doesn't go with any theme that we've been on. It's just something that God has given me. Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. And I quote this verse many, many times because it means so much to me. It says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works, but glorify the Father which is in heaven. The topic that God has laid upon my heart came from a book that I read several years ago. It's entitled, the title of this sermon is The Monday Morning Church. So when I say the words Monday morning church, what comes to mind? Some of you are going to ask me, well, what denomination goes to church on Monday morning? Who goes to church on Monday morning? We know that I don't know of a church that meets on Monday morning, but I'm going to make a statement that to some may be somewhat surprising, but I want you to listen to it before you throw stones at me. To those who do not attend church, the church on Sunday is of little value and of little purpose. It's very light dependability. There's nothing that they can see in the church. To the world, what we do in our churches on Sunday means nothing to them, and that's why the world isn't rushing to go to the church. Do you understand that? Do you understand what I just said? We think, well, the world sees the church and wants to pat us on the back. No, the world doesn't. The world is not there today. Please don't misunderstand me. The church has incredible value, so I am not negating anything about the value of the church, especially for Christians to be strengthened and blessed and touched. But to the world, they don't really care what goes on inside our church on Sunday. I guarantee there are people that are driving by here, there are people that are driving by on 60, and they couldn't care less that we are meeting at Destiny Church at 526 East Harrison Street in Republic, Missouri. It means nothing to them. And so that's where we stand. What the world wants to see, though, is their church on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Do you understand that? That's what the church, that's what the world needs today. They need to see the church on Monday. But you say, preacher, we don't have church on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. The church hardly exists in those 6 days. And that's what's scary, because it's true. The church really doesn't have much of an existence Monday through Saturday. Oh, we have a few people, for instance, at Destiny Church, we have a few people that come into the office, but for the most part, we don't have any association with the church on Sunday or on Monday. You may ask, what are you saying, preacher? Are you suggesting that we need to have church 7 days a week? No, I know that's impossible. That's not what I'm trying to say whatsoever. But what I'm suggesting is that we be the church Monday through Saturday. Do you understand that? You can't go to church Monday through Saturday. You've got to work. You've got to go to school, whatever it may be. But we can be the church every day. Did you understand that? That you say, what do you mean be the church? Live like Jesus would have us to live 7 days a week, not just on Sunday. Some years ago, I read the book by Jerry Cook entitled The Monday Morning Church, Out of the Sanctuary and Into the Streets. As I said, I've read that years ago, but I have never been able to get that book out of my mind. It has stuck with me, and that's where I titled the message, The Monday Morning Church. Where is God on Monday? Where is the church on Monday? Now, I'm going to surprise you here. Did you know that the church is not this building? The church is not that new worship center that we're going to build. The church is you. You're the church. You are the church, and people are watching you. Cook, in a quote from his book, and you're going to have to listen. It's a rather long quote, but I think it's worthwhile. He says, any effort to present Jesus as Savior must focus on the church on Monday rather than the church on Sunday. Does that make sense? You see, we can talk about the church on Sunday. Oh, I went to church yesterday and I felt the presence of God, and the world says, who cares? But when they start seeing you living the life on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and they start seeing you live it righteously, they're going to say, there's something about that church thing. He goes ahead to say that no matter how big the church no matter how big the church on Sunday becomes, it will never penetrate the culture with Jesus. The church building cannot do that. The reason is clear. The church on Sunday is experienced by the church community, you and I. It is only observed, if even noticed at all, by the unbelieving community. The church on Monday is an entirely different matter. It operates, that's you, in the experience of non-believers. It lives on their turfs, moves in their society, and operates in their culture. On Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, whichever it may be, Jesus is on the road. You might want to write that down. That is so profound. On Monday, Jesus is on the road. That's when you and I take what we were supposed to have received on Sunday to the world on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Doesn't make any difference where you work or what you do, but you are to take the Jesus on the road. He ceases to be one of the characters in the program of the institution called the church. Rather, he works beside people. He eats in their restaurants and banks at their branches. He has coffee in their front rooms and hangs out by their water coolers. He is in their lives. He is incarnate. And because he can be seen and touched by the life that you live, in essence, he can be received or rejected. True evangelism is possible. And in this sermon today, when I talk about evangelism, I'm not talking about going out and testifying or witnessing to people. That's great. That's awesome. But what I am saying is to let your light so shine before mankind that they can see Jesus in you and want to know this Jesus that you have living in you. Or do you do that? Does your light shine? Point number one of this message is this: the absent church. Let's face it, on Sunday, in many cases, the church is alive and well. The church around America and around the world is doing well on Sunday. We see these mega churches. We see great things happening. We're doing business as usual. But then on Monday through Saturday, the church goes into hibernation, awaiting the next Sunday when we can come back and get our refill again and use it all on Sunday. And then by Monday, it's drained out, so to speak. That's never what God intended for the church. Cook tells of a time he was in seminary, and they had a speaker in their chapel service. Dr. Richard Halverson was a distinguished pastor of a large Presbyterian church in Washington, D.C. For many years, he was also the chaplain of the Senate. After the chapel service, several of the students went back to the cafeteria. Dr. Halverson joined them. Richard Cook said he was watching and he was listening, and he said that as he watched what people, one of the students asked the question, said, "Dr. Halverson, where is your church?" Now, that seemed like a straightforward question, easy to answer. I mean, if somebody said, "Where is Destiny Church?" you could say 526 East Harrison Street in Republic, Missouri, 65738. But Dr. Halverson had a puzzled look on his face. He was waiting for the way to answer that question. And then he looked at his watch, and he said, "Well, it's 3 o'clock in Washington, D.C. The church that I pastor is all over the city. It's driving buses, sitting in board meetings, serving meals in restaurants, having discussions in the Pentagon, deliberating in Congress." He knew exactly the location of his church, but he went on and on with this lengthy listing. Then he added, "Periodically, we get together at a building on 4th Street, but we don't spend much time there. We're mostly in the city." Does that make sense? Do you see what it's saying? He's telling us, Dolph, that we are to be out there. We are to be the church on Monday. No, the church doors are not closed at Destiny, but we don't have church service on Monday or Tuesday. But we are to be the church on the job so that people can look at your life and see Jesus shining in you and make them want to know who he is. We've got to realize the church has failed miserably in this area. We go out of here on Sunday afternoon, and when we leave, we should flood the restaurants with the love of Jesus. If you're going to Lowe's, we should flood Lowe's with the love of Jesus. If you're going to Walmart, you should flood Walmart with the love of Jesus Christ. But instead, servers on Sunday hate to work on Sunday in restaurants because they know it's church people that will be coming in, and the church people are the most rude of all people. And yet we'll say, "Why don't you come to our church?" They're going to look at you and say, "Are you crazy? I don't want to go to a church that treats people like you treat people." Let your light so shine. The church is exceedingly valuable. I'm not trying to negate that. What happens here on Sunday is extremely valuable, but we need to take Jesus to the world. We need to let people see Jesus shining in us. I can preach this message without condemnation because I look at my life and I can be ashamed of myself. Doug, I can literally be ashamed of things that I have done and the influence that I've had, the negative influence that I have had on people over the years, and I'm ashamed of that. Do people see Jesus in the church on Monday through Saturday? Do they see Jesus shining? How much of an impact do we have on the world Monday through Saturday? To be honest, I'm afraid it's very negligible. I'm afraid it's a very small impact that the church has on the world Monday through Saturday. And if they're not paying attention to us on Sunday, what does that say? Doesn't that give you an idea of why people are dying and going to hell at a rapid rate? I ask this, is Destiny Church still alive and functioning on Monday? Well, we leave that up to the pastors. No, you don't. That's not the pastor's responsibility. That's your responsibility. Wherever you go, you need to be the church. If you go to school on Monday, you need to be the church. If you go to work on Monday, you need to be the church. If you're home taking care of those babies, you need to be the church. But we live ungodly lives and then wonder why people don't want to have anything to do with the church. I remember somebody telling me a story several years ago about a man that called himself a preacher. And you notice I said called himself a preacher. They said that this man would come into work. He was bivocational, so he would come into work and said he had the dirtiest mouth. He would tell dirty jokes and talk about pornography and all of that. And then he would invite people to come to his church. They said the people would just laugh at him. They would make fun of him behind his back because they didn't want to have anything to do with something like that. The church is you. I don't care who you say it. We have to take the church on the road. I remember a question I heard several years ago and have never forgotten. Let me ask this. To all of Destiny Church, I ask this question. If for some unforeseen reason, D.C. had to close our doors, would the City of Republic even notice? If we were forced for some reason, we don't know what that would be, but would the loss of D.C. in Republic have a negative impact on our community? Ask yourself that question, and I'll answer it later. We must be having such an impact on our regions that people would miss us greatly if we were no longer there. But if all we do is go to church on Sunday and sing and shout and dance and hoop and holler and then live ungodly lives during the week, what influence are we having? I'm not indicating that we need to walk around with a huge Bible in our hands and a placard on our back that says, I am a Christian. This may be a little bit rude, but I'm going to say it anyway. There are some so-called Christians that I would hope that they don't tell anybody they're a Christian. Do you know anybody like that? They claim to be a Christian, and if they're a Christian, I don't think I want to go to heaven. You see what I'm saying? That's the way it works. We need to live the life of Jesus 7 days a week. We had a lady that we hired at Nixa in our church. She became our custodian. This lady was rough. I mean, she was rough. She had lived the most ungodly life. She was still very, very rough. But she started working for us and coming to church and gave her life to Jesus. And she was far from perfect, just like you and I. But there was a man in our church that a few weeks after she started working, she said, how long has that man attended your church? And I said, he's attended for quite some time. And she said, I worked with him, and I never knew that he was a Christian. I would never have guessed that he was a Christian by the life that he lived. Can I tell you something? I think that's the worst thing that could ever be said about you. That's the harshest, meanest thing that could ever be said about you. They claim to be a Christian, but I could never tell it. I could never see Jesus in them. I had a situation in my own life. I had just graduated from high school, and this is how much of an impact it had on my life, because that was 5 years ago that I graduated from high school. Forgive me for lying, Lord. Here I'm telling to walk a holy life, and I'm lying in the pulpit. But this lady came up to me. I had just graduated from high school. She looked at me and she said, I just wanted to say thank you. And I said, for what? Why are you thanking me? And she said, my boyfriend and I have watched you all during your high school years, and he kept saying he won't live it. He won't make it. He won't survive spirit. He'll fall. He'll quit. And she looked at me and she said, but you never did. And I just want to say thank you. Now you say, that sounds egotistical. That sounds like you're speaking prideful of yourself. Absolutely not. When she told me that, can I tell you my response? It scared me spitless. It scared me to death, because I thought, oh my, I never knew that family, that couple was watching me. Did you know that people are watching your life every day? They are watching your life every day, good or bad, and it's up to you. You are the only one that can. Point number 2 is this: holiness or love, the way to reach the world. We don't have to choose between holiness or love. It should be both if we're going to change the world. But God has shown me over the years that too many Christians want to walk around in their holiness, but would never stoop down and help somebody, a fallen brother or sister. I've already made you mad, so I'm just going to go ahead. Christians can be some of the meanest people in the world. Christians, when a fellow brother or sister falls or makes a mistake, Christians can turn on them and chew them up and spit them out. Or we see somebody fall and we wouldn't dare stoop because we're too holy to stoop down and help them or pick them up. Some Christians are so proud of their holiness, they major on what they don't do more than what they do. You understand that part? I don't do this. I don't do that. I don't go here. I don't go there. I don't say this. I don't say that. But what do you do that is positive? Can people see Jesus shining in your life? The story of the Good Samaritan is a perfect example of that. In Luke chapter 10, there was a man who was beaten and stripped and robbed and left lying in the streets. But not to worry. Oh, it's all okay, because I see coming down the road 2 holy men. There's a priest, and then behind him there's a Levite coming, so they will take care of this fallen brother. Do you remember the story? What did they do? They saw this man, and they crossed to the other side of the street, and they walked because they didn't want to stoop down and take their time to help that man. Folks, we need to be there to lift people who fall, because you have fallen, and you needed somebody to lift you up. But thank goodness there was that good Samaritan, a Samaritan who was looked down upon and considered to be a disgrace to mankind. But he stopped and he picked the man up and took care of him, while the 2 religious people were far too busy to reach out and touch anyone. Can I say this about Destiny Church? We're not that way. I asked you a while ago, if Destiny Church disappeared for some reason, would Republic miss us? I can say with a resounding yes. This community would miss Destiny Church because we do so much to reach out to unfortunate people. We do so much to reach out to people who are hurting. We reach out with food. We reach out with love. We reach out with compassion. Over the years, we have done so many things to help people. So yes, we would be missed. Point number 3 is the social gospel. I was invited to a meeting of the Council of Churches in Springfield some years ago when I was a pastor at Nixon. The subject that we were talking about that day was homelessness. And 2 things I want you to know that came out of that meeting. They discussed homelessness, and secondly, they didn't come up with any answers on homelessness. You say, what's the big deal about that? Well, the one thing that was so pronounced to me at that meeting were the number of churches that only knew how to offer a social gospel. Do you understand what I'm saying there? We want to reach out and give you food. Great, awesome. We want to clothe you. Great, awesome. But we never want to take the time to tell them about Jesus. We want to feed them. We want to take care of the homeless. But we never tell them that the answer ultimately is Jesus Christ. We avoid that part. That's called a social gospel. They were so concerned about feeding the hungry and clothing the naked that they failed to see the most important thing. And that was to reach out to them in love and tell them that Jesus is the answer. Now, I'm not against feeding the hungry and clothing the naked. We did that at Nixon when I was pastor there. We did that. We were going through a terrible financial time at Nixa. I mean, it was beyond comprehension. And God spoke to me and said, I want you to buy, and I believe it was 1,000 pair of tennis shoes. I'm like, God, we don't even have money to buy one pair of tennis shoes. How are we going to buy for 1,000? We bought those 1,000 tennis shoes, gave them out on a special day that we hosted there at the church. And you know, when all was said and done, we had money left over. I don't know how it happened, but I just know that when God tells you to do something, you got to do it. But we can be satisfied with giving them tennis shoes and not giving them the most important thing, and that's Jesus. We've got to show them that we love you. Do you understand me? Without showing the hurting, the lonely, the destitute, the homeless, and the needy that Jesus loves them, what good have we done them? I heard there's a saying that give a man a fish to eat and he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he'll have food for a lifetime. And as I thought of that, it came to me, Mike, my spinoff of that was this: give a man food, water, clothing, and shelter, and you'll temporarily satisfy his physical needs. Give a man hope and life in Jesus, and you will satisfy his needs for eternity. It's more than a social gospel. That's good. You have to understand, I am not saying anything negative about reaching out to the hurting and the needy. We've got to do that, and that's point number 4. Godliness and love combined. You've got to let your light shine, and you've got to let your light so shine that you reach out and touch people in a very special way. Godliness and love combined. Yeah, we may have a vision of meeting the needs of mankind, but do we reach out and touch them spiritually? Do we reach out and minister to them in a spiritual way? Do we love them enough to tell them about Jesus? And sometimes loving them enough about Jesus is telling them when they're wrong. People don't like that. They don't want you to tell them when they're wrong. They want you to pat them on the back and tell them how sweet and loving they are. But sometimes you got to be honest. You got to tell them that you need to be walking the narrow way. Let me tell you a story that happened to me personally, and I know it to be the truth. 1999, I think it was, our church at Nixa took a missions trip to Malawi, East Africa. When we arrived, they put us down in a Muslim village. We didn't know that at the time, but it was right in the middle of a Muslim village called Nkapola. We went into that village and we passed out some items that we took, so we met a few of their physical needs, but you can't carry that much in suitcases. But our main duty was to build a tabernacle for the people of Nkapola. It was only a shell of the building. It was the wall, the frame, and the roof, because the missionary said, I don't want you to do anything more than that. I want the people to have something invested in this. And so they made the brick and put up on the sidewalls. Night after night, I preached 5 nights, Monday through Friday. And we showed the Jesus film with the generator. How many of you have ever seen the Jesus film? telling you, the people who created that are going to have a lot of blessings when they get to heaven. We showed that video. The first night under the roof, it was only children. You could look out in the dark and you could see the whites of those African eyes as the adults were standing there watching. But they wouldn't come under the roof. No, they were too dignified for that. But you could see many in the darkness. The second night, the children were there again. We showed the second part of the Jesus film. And then but you could look in the back of the building, and some of those adults were coming toward the back of the building. The third night showed the film again, the third part, and you looked and there were adults standing in the back of the auditorium. The fourth and fifth night, the kids were right here and the adults were standing directly behind them. And as they would show that video of the Jesus film, you could hear those people. They'd never seen anything like it. And they were going, ooh, oh, no, oh, as they were crucifying Jesus and beating him. They were feeling actual pain as they watched that. And I can guarantee you it was not my sermons that changed them, but they watched that Jesus video. Each night at the conclusion of the service, I would give an altar call for those who wanted to receive Jesus as their Savior. We saw people healed. We saw one man who was deaf. His ears were opened. But at the conclusion of those 5 nights, when they counted up the cards, people would come forward and they would either fill out the card, or if they couldn't write, they would have somebody fill out the card. But at the end of those 5 nights, 1,200 people, adults, youth, and children, had made decisions to follow Jesus Christ. I will never forget the day that we were taking off when we were on the tarmac in Lilongwe, Malawi, East Africa, the capital city. We were on that plane, and I looked out, and I still remember this so clearly. As I looked out, I said, God, we had a lot of great results. But Lord, how many of those people will really stick with it? And I can't tell you that I've often heard God speak, and I didn't hear an audible voice, but God spoke so plainly back to me, and he said, that's none of your business. You did what you were supposed to do. Now it's up to the church. We got home, and a few weeks later, I communicated with the missionary, told him what had happened. And he said, by the way, he said, that church at Incapola is full, and they've started 2 more churches out of that. And I said, that's what it was all about. That's what God is wanting to do. That's what God is wanting to touch. But you see, we've got to let our light shine. I'm not saying walk around singing and screaming at people that you're a sinner and you're going to die and go to hell and all of that. I'm saying let your light so shine before men that they see your good works, but they give all the glory to God the Father. So let me say this. When you walk out of here in just a few minutes, I'm closing. But when you walk out of 526 East Harrison Street in Republic, Missouri on Sunday, May the 18th, 2025, did you know that you are the church when you walk out those doors? When you go to McDonald's or Flat Creek or McAllister's or wherever you go, you're the church. People are going to watch you. Oh, you may say, well, they don't know that I'm a Christian, but they're still going to think, okay, this is the Christian crowd coming out. And what kind of light are you going to shine? Let's take the church out from behind our walls and take it to the streets of our communities. The praise team is coming. They're going to sing one more song, and I want you to think about this. You're about ready to go home. But Claudia, when you walk out this door, I have no idea what you're going to do. I don't know where you're going to go. But Jody, when you walk out of this building, you're the church to some people. You're the only Jesus that some people are going to see. And that's either good or bad. You know that? And what bothers me the most, Stephen, is I've been a bad Jesus to people a lot of times. I know I can preach this message with my thumb back because I have been a bad Jesus. Do you understand what I'm saying there? When I say I've been a bad Jesus, I've been a bad example of Jesus so many times. One of the areas where I have been weakest is in my competitive nature. I have been so competitive, and as Jason said, I don't like to lose. And as a result, I have demonstrated unchristlike attitudes and actions in the past, and I feel so bad about it. When the world looks at you, what do they see? Ask yourself that question. When the world looks at you, what do they see? Do they see Jesus? Or do they see somebody? Let's face it, they think most Christians are hypocrites, okay? They think most Christians are hypocrites. We profess to something, but we live another way. And we're doing damage to the kingdom of God that is beyond repair. And God is calling Destiny Church, let our light shine to the 417 area code. Let's let our light so shine to people that they say, I've got to go to church there. Last Sunday we had a family praise team. I don't know if they're coming or not, but if not, we'll go ahead and turn the service back to Jason. But we had somebody visit our church last Sunday. When I found out about them, they came here because AI told them to come here. That was the first for me. I'd never heard that. But there are many ways that people are going to come to Jesus. But the best way is to see Jesus shining in you with a radiance that tells the world He is everything. He is more important to me than anything. So church, when you stop and think about it, you probably have never thought about it. When you walk out these doors today, you're going to be Jesus to somebody, to your family. I've seen people that treat others nice, but they treat their family like dirt. I go into Walmart and I've seen people, their kids are a little bit rowdy and they start hollering, you're so stupid, get over here, kid, get over here. I'm going to beat your head in. You're so stupid. You're never going to amount to anything. What are you saying to the world? When you lie, when you cheat, the language that you use. I wasn't going to say this, but your language. You say it's just a part of who I am and everybody does it. No, not everybody does it. One of the things that gets me is if the media, and I know I'm getting myself in big trouble. I know that. But if the media won't even print the word, they'll just start out with one letter and then they'll put blank, blank, blank. If the media won't print the word, then why should you say it? If you're a Christian, now I've made you real mad. But I'm not going to apologize because this bothers me to see Christians that will use language that does not glorify Jesus. I've told you my weaknesses, and I've got so many of them that it stinks. But think about it. As the praise team sings one more song, and then Jason is going to come. But when you walk out of here, I hope every one of you think when you step across that threshold, uh-oh, I'm the church going out of here. I'm going to be the church as I walk out these doors today. How am I going to? When you go to the restaurant, I hope you treat that server better than you've ever treated anybody. You tip good. You say, these are trivial things, they're stupid. They may be, but they matter to those out there in the world. It matters to them. So I'm shut up, and praise team, sing one more song for us. I'm out of here before